You are 23 years old and you work the overnight shift at a container port in Rotterdam. Your job is documentation, verifying cargo manifests against physical container contents, flagging discrepancies, filing reports with customs authorities. You are precise, you are fast, and you have a memory for numbers that your supervisor has mentioned twice in positive performance reviews. You earn €38,000 a year. You live in a one-bedroom apartment 12 minutes from the port by bicycle. Your life is structured and unremarkable, and you have made peace with both of those things. The night it ends is a Thursday in February. You are processing a routine manifest for a container arriving from Singapore when you notice that the declared weight is 400 kilograms heavier than the physical container scan indicates. This is not unusual. Discrepancies happen constantly in high-volume port operations. What is unusual is that when you trace the container's transit history, you find the same 400-kilogram discrepancy on the previous 3 shipments through 3 different ports over 18 months. Someone has been very careful. Not careful enough. You flag it in the system. You file the report. You go home. 2 days later, a man is sitting at your kitchen table when you return from your shift. He is not threatening you. He is drinking coffee he made himself from your kitchen, and he is holding a printed copy of the report you filed, and he explains to you with the calm specificity of someone delivering a weather forecast that the organization whose shipments you flagged moves €1.4 billion in product annually through 11 European ports, that they have 17 people embedded in customs operations across the continent, and that your report has already been intercepted and will not reach its destination. Then he tells you that the people who run this organization would like to offer you a position, and that the position pays €400,000 per year, and that declining is an option but not one he would recommend given what they now know about your skill set and your address. You sit down. You think for approximately 90 seconds. You say yes. This is how it starts, not with ambition, not with moral collapse, not with desperation. With a Thursday night and a 400-kilogram discrepancy and a man drinking your coffee. The decision feels enormous in the moment and unremarkable in retrospect, which is the first thing the work teaches you. The biggest pivots in a life rarely feel proportional to what they produce. Within 6 months you are running documentation for 7 container routes across 4 continents. Your job is the same as it was at the port. Numbers, manifests, discrepancies, except now you are creating the discrepancies rather than finding them. You build layered cargo declarations with the precision of an architect, each layer internally consistent, each layer capable of withstanding a customs inspection that goes 3 levels deep. The product moves through your paperwork the way water moves through a landscape, along the path of least resistance, which you have engineered in advance. In 18 months you have not lost a single container. The organization notices. By year 3 you are not doing documentation anymore. You are managing routes. 12 active corridors, Rotterdam to Lagos, Cartagena to Antwerp, Guangzhou to Hamburg, 9 others, each with its own embedded contacts, its own inspection windows, its own financial architecture. You have a budget of €8 million per quarter to maintain relationships, which is the clean word for paying the 31 port officials, customs inspectors, and logistics managers across 4 continents who make your corridors function. You know all 31 of them not as individuals but as variables in a system, their exposure levels, their financial dependencies, their specific vulnerabilities. This is not cruelty. It is risk management. You cannot afford sentimentality about people whose reliability you are paying for. The moral architecture you build during this period is functional and deliberate. You do not move people. You do not move weapons capable of mass casualties. You move luxury goods, pharmaceuticals, counterfeit currency, and electronic components that exist in legal gray zones across different jurisdictions. These categories were not chosen randomly. They were chosen because the enforcement priority attached to them is lower, the sentence exposure in the jurisdictions you operate through is manageable, and the client base is stable and professional rather than volatile. You tell yourself this distinction matters. In practical terms it does. Your operation runs cleaner and quieter than the organization's moving harder product. Whether the distinction is moral or merely strategic is a question you stopped examining closely around year 2. By year 5 you control what can accurately be described as a logistics empire. 47 active routes. 11,000 containers processed annually through your documentation architecture. Gross revenue to the organization you now partially own. You negotiated equity in year 4 in exchange for rebuilding 3 compromised European corridors. Exceeds 3 billion euros. Your personal annual distribution is between 8 and 12 million, depending on seizure rates and route performance. You have not lived in Rotterdam since year 2. You rotate between 4 residences in 4 countries, none registered in your name, all maintained through a property management structure that your financial team built across 7 jurisdictions. You are a Dutch national on paper. In practice, you are a citizen of the architecture you designed. The thing that keeps you awake, not with fear, which has become ambient and therefore manageable, but with genuine strategic concern, is exposure geometry. Every network has a failure point. Yours has been engineered with enough redundancy that no single seized container, no single turned official, no single coordinated law enforcement operation can collapse the whole structure. But the geometry of exposure changes as a network grows. At 12 routes and 31 contacts, the surface area of potential compromise is calculable. At 47 routes and 219 embedded contacts across 4 continents, it is not. You are managing a system that has grown beyond the point where any single person can hold its complete architecture in their head. That is a power statement and a vulnerability simultaneously, and you are aware of both. The crisis arrives in year 6 in the form of a Belgian federal prosecutor who has spent 3 years building a case through a method you did not anticipate, not by targeting your embedded contacts, not by tracing your financial flows, but by mapping the behavioral patterns of your clean logistics companies. The ones you use as cover. The prosecutor noticed that 3 legitimate freight companies operating across your primary European corridors have identical seasonal volume fluctuations that do not correspond to any legitimate commercial driver. She has been working backward from that observation for 36 months. She is now 4 steps from your financial structure. You spend 11 days doing nothing but analyzing her case progression through the intelligence your legal team has acquired. On day 12 you make 4 decisions. You close 2 European corridors permanently and absorb the revenue loss. You dissolve 3 of the clean logistics companies and rebuild them under new structures in different jurisdictions. You transfer the 2 embedded contacts closest to her investigative thread to non-operational roles and pay each of them 18 months of salary in advance, which removes their financial incentive to cooperate if approached. And you commission a counterintelligence operation, entirely legal, entirely within the bounds of normal corporate due diligence, that generates enough documentary noise around her behavioral pattern methodology that any court challenge to it will face significant evidentiary complications. The case stalls. Not because it was wrong, it was almost exactly right, but because the 4 decisions you made on day 12 removed enough of the foundation that the structure she was building can no longer support the weight of a prosecution. She knows this. You know she knows this. She will start again from a different angle. You will find that angle before she does, or you will not, and that uncertainty is now the permanent condition of operating at this scale. You are 31 years old. You have been inside the system for 8 years. The person who flagged a 400-kilogram discrepancy on a Thursday night in February exists in your memory with perfect clarity. The apartment, the bicycle, the 38,000 euros, the unremarkable structured life. You do not romanticize it. It was a smaller life and this is a larger one, and the exchange was made with full awareness, even if the awareness was compressed into 90 seconds at a kitchen table. What you carry now is not guilt, which would be too simple, and not pride, which would be too comfortable. It is a specific and permanent alertness, the baseline cognitive state of someone who has built something too large to fully see and too valuable to abandon, and too exposed to ever feel secure about. Every morning you assess the current threat geometry. Every evening you adjust the architecture in response to what the day produced. The system runs. The routes hold. The contacts stay bought. The prosecutor builds her next case in an office in Brussels that you have never seen and will never enter. The work continues. It always continues. That is both the reward and the sentence, and you stop being able to distinguish between the two sometime around year 4, and you have not tried to separate them since.